Chrono Hunter is a new roguelike shooter available now for MetaQuest headsets and coming soon to PC VR. But roguelike shooters, as we've said before on this channel, are everywhere in VR. So can Chrono Hunter stand out from the pack? Stick around and you'll find out. Chrono Hunter at first is incredibly formulaic. Everything you'd expect from a roguelike shooting game in VR, Chrono Hunter does it exactly the way that you imagine it would. The storyline is delivered through some interesting 2D animated cutscenes and a lot of dialogue. And a lot of this dialogue is a bit annoying. The characters, when they're delivering story elements to you, are fairly slow-paced and uninteresting. And then once you've got past the story elements, they seem to only have a handful of lines which they then repeat ad nauseum every time you approach them. So the world-building aspect of Chrono Hunter definitely needs some work. As you would expect, the game plays out that you choose a mission from the options available, which to begin with is just one, you don't get a choice. And then you teleport down to the arena at the map in which you'll play this mission. And typically, missions will lead you along a linear path, and you'll be stopping at specific intervals to eliminate all the enemies in the area and other kind of familiar tropes, and it's pretty formulaic stuff. Some levels are a bit more expansive and give you a bit of free roam and you can explore at will. And again, they constantly fall into this trap of eliminate all enemies to continue, but at least they give you a bit more freedom. At least you're able to say, hey, I can see a treasure chest in the distance, I'm going to try and get over there and get to that, rather than just being funneled down a path. And those aforementioned treasure chests are actually one of the key elements that makes Chrono Hunter interesting. So the game has 3 primary weapons, which do need to be unlocked as you progress. And these are weapons that you'll have with you constantly and have unlimited ammo. Outside of those 3 weapons, you can collect weapons on each run that only exist with you in that run. And they have a limited amount of ammo. And these weapons are actually super interesting. There's great variety in the kind of in-run weapons that you can get, although, as I say, they are limited and only stay on that run. Within the treasure chests, you'll find a variety of different items. Sometimes they are currency that you can spend in a run should you find a dude that is offering a shop, and he will offer different types of guns, or perhaps upgrade cards. Upgrade cards, again, only affect you on the run you're on, but they do have a lot of different special kind of elements. So you can increase your speed or increase your critical damage or whatever you so choose from the options available to you. However, a key element of these cards is stacking them. You can stack multiple cards of the same type in order to have additional bonus effects. The cards are identified by different colours. So for example, if in a run you get a red card and then another red card and subsequently a third red card, you won't just get the primary bonus that the card offers, but a significant boost and other additional effects. This essentially makes Chrono Hunter a game where you don't really care what happens between the missions and you're only worried about what's happening in the missions. So the roguelike element is more about how well you do the run based on what you get in the run. Back at your hub, there are options to do significant upgrades through assembling like a cube type thing. You earn currency in the runs, which can then upgrade one of 4 different elements, and then you choose which elements you want by placing the blocks that represent them into a grid. So, for example, at the start of the game, you cannot take the critical hit bonus as well as the normal hit bonus because they don't fit into the grid at the same time. You can, however, take a bonus which increases the rate of critical hits, or the chance of critical hits, and the damage done when doing critical hits, essentially making your critical hits much more effective than your standard shots. So there's a lot of elements in Chrono Hunter that impact specifically the runs. And the levels are designed in such a way that they build you up to taking on one of 3 big bads as you approach the final boss. These big bads are generally quite interesting bosses. They're generally quite interestingly designed, and certainly a step away from the basic run-of-the-mill enemies. None of which are particularly bad in their design, but they can be a little bit irritating. The boss encounters, however, stand out. Very similarly to the recently released Titan Isles, for which you can see our review up here. The boss fights are one of the most interesting elements of Chrono Hunter. It's a shame that there's not more of them, to be frank, because these were what sucked most of our time. Once you've made some progress and vanquished a boss or two, you will find that the game does open up a lot more. It does give you much more options for customization and to tackle each mission as you so wish and to choose which mission you want to embark upon. It's such a shame that it hides all this late game content behind a quite slow and inflexible first couple of hours. In terms of visual design, Chrono Hunter is pretty good. It's a very colourful world that kind of blends sci-fi and fantasy and gives you lots of different kinds of environments. And it does a good job at portraying the worlds that you are travelling through. There's loads of location varieties, loads of different locales that you can go through, and they are pretty convincing. It's almost as if the game was specifically designed to incorporate loads of different locations and variety, and the storyline was made around that. While all these different types of location, essentially different time zones, hence the name Chrono Hunter, while they're all using the same art style, they do stand apart. And some of the draw distances in this game, like the aforementioned Titan Isles, are simply fantastic. So Chrono Hunter, ultimately, with that visual style, the way in which the roguelike elements are delivered both out of your runs and in your runs, kind of makes me feel like the developers were aiming for like a RoboQuest adaptation in VR. But of course, there is a RoboQuest adaptation coming to VR. So whether or not Chrono Hunter can stand up against the game that quite possibly was its inspiration, I'm not really sure at this point. We'll have to get hands on RoboQuest VR and find out. In the meantime, though, Chrono Hunter delivers what it promises. It is an enjoyable roguelite in VR that does make use of the many different elements that VR can bring to the genre. Sadly, this is a really crowded genre in VR, so I'm not sure Chrono Hunter has what it takes to stand out. Roguelike fans, jump in right now. Chrono Hunter is a good time. If you're interested in the genre but aren't looking to dig around through more of the options that are available, there are better roguelites out there.